Alright, hello, welcome to the channel. This is a tutorial, just because someone asked me to do it. This is just going to be sort of like an outline of how to use Unreal Engine. Well, the first thing that you want to do actually is just download the engine, of course. You just click on the add versions and you are able to go through just a ton of what you want. And currently I have the most recent version, except for like the beta version, kind of the preview version anyways. So I have it done and ready to go. And the project that I have created is called Low Poly. I use it with my imported custom objects that I have made in Blender, which is what I have currently started using. So if I open Blender here and I have it saved under Low Poly Assets, and I just click on it, it's going to look really unorganized. I just set up a little simple kind of scene that could be rendered with a few of the assets that I had ready. It's all low poly, so it sort of just looks like low poly stuff. But it's really fun to work with, and I think that it's probably the best kind of stuff to work with, especially if you're just starting to learn how to use Unreal or how to use 3ds Max or Blender or Maya or whatever kind of modeling program that you want to use. It's just really fun, kind of a cool looking art style to get everything ready with. Plus it'll teach you a lot about how to set up your different exports for your UVs and for your materials and getting different things ready. As you can see here, I have let's see if I can actually go to Rocks All. Right here I have all of the rocks that I made in that little section all exported as a particular set of UVs. So let me actually combine these together as well. Go ahead and combine all of them. Alright, as you can see, all of it is mapped onto here except for this. I don't know. Okay. So as you can see, I have it all actually mapped, the certain rocks and different kind of things that are all within the scene. They're joined together and they are all on one UV set, and all of their textures are combined onto one picture. Now the fun thing that you can actually do with it is separate all of these rock pieces into their own individual assets after they're all combined, and they'll retain their UV positions, so you can put the texture into the engine. And I'll start a new project, that way we can go ahead and start together if you want to. So let's go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and exit out of this. I won't save it or anything. I'll go ahead and start a new Blender file. Well, actually first I'll go ahead and save this one, because why in the world would I not save it? That is the most important thing that you can do whenever you're working with any kind of engine, any kind of modeling software, anything. If you don't save, then you might as well just stop doing everything that you're doing, because then you screwed up hard. I'll go ahead and just choose first person. That way if we want to go ahead and run around, we can go ahead and run around. Save it under whatever file name you want. I went ahead and saved it under my D drive and users and my username and to documents. That way it's a pretty easy way of just going ahead and going to get in there, and if I wanted to make a shortcut onto my desktop, I can go ahead and have it ready. So I'm going to go ahead and create the project and come back over here to Blender. Now of course you start with the simple camera, the light, and the box. That's just how it will always start. It's under, oops. So we come into here into Blender, and as you can see, it has a simple camera, it has the light, and a cube that's always going to be in it. Now what I like to do first, since I don't like working with lights to export objects, what I do is I come over here, change it to Cycles Render first, and make this completely white. Now what happens whenever you render this is it illuminates the object perfectly from all sides. And of course if you don't want it the light to be as intense, you can just turn down this a little bit and boom, it'll have the amount of lighting that you want. Of course, whenever you go in to start doing different kind of materials and different textures, you can adjust the ambient occlusion or even the specularity and change how that'll affect the object. But right now, it'll just make the textures really pop, really bright, really beautiful. As you can see here, from doing the white purely in the background, you can see that all the textures have an even amount of lighting. All of it looks just fine. And of course, whenever you go to start doing the normal maps and the occlusion, specularity, as I said, you can actually tweak all of those values to as much as you want, especially whenever you go into the materials inside of Unreal Engine. Now let's go ahead and go back over here to Blender. So I don't know if you need a tutorial on how to make an object, but what I will do actually is go ahead and delete the light, delete the camera. I will go ahead and center this. So we delete the camera, delete the light, and go ahead and come back into here. And whenever you delete something, you press X and just click to delete. And what I like to do is whenever you come into here to user preferences and system, if you have an a add-on card, I have a 980 Ti, you can just click on CUDA and you can choose the object. Normally it's set to none, but whenever you do this, it selects your graphic cards, save the user settings, and then you come over to here and this little camera under render, it says device, then you click, of course, GPU, and it says compute right after it. And if you want to leave the cursor at the center, you press Shift S and cursor to center. That way, whenever you add in something, it automatically puts it back to the center. Now, whenever you want to add something, go ahead and press Shift and A and then choose whatever kind of object. Let's go ahead and choose a cone. Now, the vertices over here, if you don't select out of the object, you go ahead and just click vertices, and I'll do 5. This looks just fine. So now we click 1 on the number pad and then 5, which will have it all centered out. Look, very nice. So then I'm just going to scoot this up a little bit. You just click with the left mouse and then you just drag that blue arrow up. The same thing as if you want to drag on the x-axis, you drag the red line. The y-axis, you drag it on the green line. Z, of course, is blue. Now if you want to undo something that you just did, you click Control Z. You go ahead and move that back up to add something. I don't remember if I said it's Shift A. If you want to circle around the editor, you click in the middle mouse button and just sort of move your mouse around. Zooming in and out is wheel mouse button back and forward. Selecting an object is right clicking, and moving it, you just hold it and boom, there's the simple kind of thing. If you want a detailed explanation of how to use the editor, I can go ahead and make another video of how to do it. But for right now, I just want to show simply how to just use the editor to go ahead and make something really simple and make something that'll be pretty fun for you. Let's go ahead and just scale this up a little bit. Go ahead and move it up. That way, boom, it's there. Selecting both of them is clicking on one object, holding Shift and clicking another. Go ahead and press 1 again, which will go to the front view. 3 is the side view, and 7 is the top view. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. This is my first video. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and just tell me. I'll try to do my best to make another video if you need another explanation of the same thing. But for right now, I'm just going to kind of go over the basics. So you have all this together, and once you want to combine the objects into each other, it's a join. You want to join the objects together, so you click Control and J, which will make both of the objects into one object. And as you can see, what I have used before is these little arrows at the top. It makes your mouse into like a cursor. So you want to click it and just drag it over. And from right here, we can go ahead and select UV and Image Editor. Make a new one, call it whatever you want. whatever size you want. I'm going to go ahead and make it 512 by 512 because I want it to be, you know, rendered pretty fast because I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I'm going to go ahead and select these once you go into edit mode. Now once you select the object, to go into edit mode, you go ahead and just click tab and it will have your object completely selected just by default. And to do that, you just click A and it'll deselect the object. So if you want to click all of it, you just, well, if you want to select all of it, you just press A again. Now to unwrap it, you click U. You click U, and I usually use Smart UV Project and put an island margin at 0.03. That's just how much space there is between each UV set. Now I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and as you can see, it maps all of it out. It's just fine for what we're going to do right now. So next we're going to go ahead and select it by pieces, and we are going to go ahead and add the colors. Now if you want to select it by pieces, what you can actually do is per object you can go over to a vertice or to a face or to an edge, whatever kind of mode down here that you have. I like to use face to select multiple things at one time. Here is edge to select an edge and vertice to select individual vertices. But I like face because you can select the entire face. Now, you just go over a face, and to select the whole top object or bottom object, you go ahead and just click L over the top of it. Now that we're here, we have the leaves selected. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the material object, which is just a circle. And if you have your space that's small, you can just drag it out. Or if you like to keep it small, go ahead and scrunch it down. And whenever you're up here, if you can't find another object, you just scroll with the mouse button. And boom, you have all of your other objects. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select material, select new. I'm just going to go ahead and keep this and make it a green color, a very green color. And I'm going to go ahead and assign it. Now at first you can't see it because you're actually on solid mode, which at first I was really confused about how it worked. I'm going to save you a bunch of time and tell you to go to material, because there we go. Now you have your entire material selected. Now I'm going to go ahead and select this, and I'm going to make a new material, new, and go ahead and make it a brownish kind of color and assign it to that. So boom, there we go. We got two colors going on the object of our tree. And if we look at all of it is also UV projected. So far we are doing a fantastic job. Now what we need to do next is click into that and go into the node editor. And boom, where's the node editor? So we have the diffuse object. We're going to go ahead and shift A to add an image texture. And once we add an image texture, we want to go ahead and open the texture that you just had. And we're going to go ahead and select it and keep it selected inside of this. That way whenever we render the texture, it renders onto this image texture. Now let's select the other and do the same thing. Shift A, image texture, and select the same texture. So now we're ready to go ahead and render this all out. You're going to click on the camera, which is for rendering, but what we want to do is bake all of the colors onto that texture. So what we're going to do is to select just the colors, we want to select diffuse. And what I do is I turn off direct and indirect because that magnifies at times the kind of light bounces that happen onto it. So it makes it a very strange looking kind of thing whenever it's done. I'm sure if you were doing a static scene and had like a bunch of lights, objects everywhere, turning on both of these would actually help it a ton. But for what we're doing, since we turned the background to white, we should be 100% okay. Let's go to rendered and see what it looks like. It looks like we're doing just fine. So we're going to go back into material to go ahead and see what it looks like. Select all the UVs by pressing A if you have all of them selected. If you don't have it selected, you just click A. If you have all of it selected and you want to go ahead and make sure that you select all of them, just click A twice. Boom, now you have everything selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that color is selected and diffuse is selected. You don't have to do anything else. You just go ahead and click bake. So there we go. That happened really fast because it's a low resolution texture, plus it's just two things. So now as you can see, what we have is we have all of the trunk baked, we have the leaves baked, and now we're ready to go ahead and export it. So we're going to go ahead and go to image, save as image. I'm just going to save it on my desktop as that bunch of garbage.png and save as image. Now what we need to do next is go ahead and export the object. So what you want to do is go ahead and select the object you want to export, click File, Export, and I do it as FBX. Make sure that you click Selected Objects, because if you have a bunch of objects in your scene, if you don't click that, then it will actually export everything. So if you have like a billion assets, it'll export all of it. It'll take a year, and whenever you finally realize that you exported all of it together, you come into here into Unreal Engine and you'll realize that everything was exported at the exact same time, and then you'll just kind of get aggravated. So I'll just leave this named untitled.fbx and go ahead and export it. Now we will go ahead and go back into Unreal Engine 4, and as you can see, it has all of this first person template junk all around. So whenever you go ahead and click play, you're right here, and as you will hear, this is very loud. That was a dumb sound. So now whenever you're in the engine, you can actually just run around and notice that you see all of this stuff. It's just first person template, all of these kind of just boxes, and it has light importance volume and a post process volume, which we don't need any of this, especially for right now. But for right now, we'll go ahead and just leave it because we don't need to mess with any of it. What we'll go ahead and do, to go ahead and import the tree we just made, right click inside of that and click import. Then we'll go to where you saved it. I'll go ahead and select the untitled, and then I'll select the texture that I baked and click open. Now this FBX import option has a lot of different things inside of it that'll probably seem kind of scary at first, especially whenever you open everything. You won't know what any of it means. I understand. So what you want to go ahead and do, what I do is I go ahead and click on import material and import texture to go ahead and deselect those. I don't have anything else here. I don't really mess with it. So I go ahead and leave auto generate collision on, especially just for this, since it's just something that we're doing to go ahead and learn of how the editor and how the engine actually handles importing things and exporting things, etc. So we'll go ahead and click import. It'll tell you no smoothing group was found. You can just ignore that. So whenever we double click on the untitled, we see that here our little tree is. And it looking cute. It's looking good. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is minimize that and make a material. Name it, whatever you want as well. You just right click, click on material, name it, double click it. You're done. So what we're going to do, since all we have is a diffuse map, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and click and drag this right to there. And see, as it says texture sample, and it has a red, green, blue, and then an alpha channel. That's all a bunch of different things that'll help whenever you do like vertex painting and stuff like that. But for now, all we need is this top one because it's all the color data combined. So we'll just drag this right into base color. And as you can see right here, it'll go ahead and start to load all of it, and then boom, there is our texture loaded onto the material. Click save, wait for it to save, and then we'll go ahead and exit out of that because we don't need it anymore at all. And since we saved, baked both the trunk and the leaves into the same texture, what we'll do is we'll just drag the same material into both because we don't need anything separate. We don't have the leaves and we don't have the trunk separate, so we'll just drag both of them into the same thing. And as you can see here, it says LOD 0 you can import levels of display, which will really help with whenever you're working on a higher poly object and you want to make it have extremely high detail up close, but whenever you back away, it decimates the model to make it look, mostly the same, but have a lot less polys, especially whenever you're not hardly looking at it or from like a mile away. Now, as you can see, the material and the textures are working perfectly, and so is the model. It's working just fine. We'll go ahead and save that, exit out of it, and just click and drag it onto the scene. And as you can see right here, it's ready. It's just a little tree. And that is how importing models works in Unreal Engine from Blender. Now, in the next thing, if you still want more help in the next video, if you want me to make another video, I can go ahead and make another one of a more complex kind of model, more complex texturing and UV process. And we'll go ahead and animate the leaves. We will animate the trunk to sway. We'll go ahead and get a few more things hammered out. But I wanted to go ahead and just show you how to map the UVs, how to map the tree, and we'll export how to map the textures of the tree that you make onto a UV space, how to make the individual UVs, how to export the model, how to import the model, and make the material for said model. And now you know how all of that works, so now you have a ton of things that you are just preliminary that you know now, if you didn't already know. So whenever all of this is finished, go ahead and click save right there, and go ahead and click save all as well, because it'll save all of the materials, the textures, and the models that you import as well. And that's a very important thing. So we'll go ahead and wait until the next video to go ahead and do a little bit more of complex work. Go ahead and get ready to start painting the models that you make onto the terrain, which is one of the most simple things in the actual engine. And as you can see here, here's a big terrain that's not built yet. So we'll go ahead and wait, and we'll go ahead and have all this ready for you. Thank you for watching. If you're ready for the next video, go ahead and subscribe or like or whatever you want to do. If you don't like the video, leave a dislike, maybe even go into the comments and tell me why. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.